Welcome to the second video on board management. And in this video, I'm going to address board composition. I often get asked from business owners, what is the optimal phase in a company's life when you should start engaging a board, having external executives and start their really value creating process and the high level strategic work at what stage, at what level? Is it when you have 10 employees, or is it when you have a turnover of x amount of million US dollars, or tell me. But the answer to that question is there is no perfect plan. There is no, there are legal requirements that when you start a company, for instance in Sweden, you need to at least have one registered board member, but that's just to be able to register. And but there's no legal requirement in Sweden that you need to have a board of 5 people and they need to have all these skills and they need to meet X amount of times per year. No, that's entirely up to the owner. And I've come across businesses in Sweden that are doing really well, and they've been operational for years and they were making lots of money and they're really making an impact in the communities with their products and services, but they don't feel that they need a board. The owner is very determined. He knows or she knows exactly the plan for the company, and they're also the CEO and they're kind of happy with that structure. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then there's also entrepreneurs that before they even start operations, before they even made one dime, they have a proper full-on board with external executives coming in with different skill sets and mindsets and experiences that would add value. And why do they do that? Because those owners know that the journey that they want to embark on, they don't have the skills themselves or in their family or their neighbors or close family friends and childhood buddies and whatnot. They don't have all the skills needed to make this happen. So that's why they start from day one to put together a board. So how do you then play it out? Well, ideally, you need someone who's good at finance because you are responsible for the annual reports, and you need to be able to have enough financial knowledge to be able to understand, grasp, and challenge not only the P&L but also the balance sheet. The biggest risks to a company from a board perspective is in the balance sheet. And there's actually surprisingly few boards that really dive into the balance sheet. It's all about the P&L, monthly reports, and the cash flow. But you just need to be financially savvy to understand this. Another good skill is that if you have CEO experience, because then you know what it's like to run a company and you have that helicopter perspective. The challenge, though, for former CEOs that are entering the boardroom for the first time as directors is to not get into the nitty gritties of the how things are done. Because on a board level, it's all about strategy and high level. But then it's so much fun, right? Because you've been the CEO for so long that you start to dive into the how. That's not the role of the board. But it could be useful to mentor and support the CEO if he or she, feels the need or values that type of relationship. But then you need to check with the chairman first. And the chairman for me is someone who is really well acquainted with the corporate governance and the legislation in the country that the company operates, because there's so many legal aspects of this and there's so much protocol that needs to be followed up on and respected and adhered to. So the chairman just need to have that really solid foundation. And then the chairman also needs to have the leadership skills to manage the board, which I will go into more detail in the third video with in this board series. Because the chairman of the board is not only managing the other directors in the boardroom, he or she is also the link to the owners and also the link and support to the CEO. So they are like kind of in the mix and pulling all the pieces together, having everyone's ear and navigating this. But what I see, well, what I've seen for the past, yeah, maybe 6 years, at least in Sweden, is that you want the basics, you want the finance background, you want CEO, you want someone with corporate governance, but then instead of having three of each of these skills and that's it, you start to invite specialists on the board. For instance, AI and tech or blockchain or whatnot, if that is at all part of your company, or you feel that that is something that will severely impact your business in the long term, you would want someone on the board with that skill. Or in Europe, where there's a lot of EU regulation on sustainability, maybe you want someone who is really experienced in that field to be able to risk, manage the risk and also the opportunities that lies within these fields. But and then a lot of us wants to see ourselves being reflected on the board. So, I guess, okay, so if I were looking for, if let's say that I'm looking for a new CEO job, and I start Googling and I have an idea of the kind of market, the kind of company, or what is the product, is it they're producing services or goods, or are they a consultancy firm, or I mean, I'm starting to get an idea what type of business I want to be in. So I start checking out these companies. And if I look at the board and there's only, I don't know, guys in their 30s with from Eastern Europe and nothing else, I would be like, okay, why are there no women? Why are there not more international people? Or the other way around. It's only women on the board and I'm a woman. I was like, oh, maybe they actually would need a guy here. So but we all want to feel that there's some kind of resonance, and that the people at the very top layer of the company also kind of represents the people in the company, because it's also about creating role models. Let's say the board is only comprised of white men in their late 50s, and you are a young woman of color looking to make a career in this company. Would you consciously or subconsciously feel that that is an option? Yes or no? So it has become not only about adding new skills to the boardroom, but it has also become a matter of optics. I know this is a sensitive area. Some people are a bit stressed out about this whole thing, and others are really, really aggressive about it. But all research shows that a diverse board are better catered to identify risks and opportunities, because they come from different parts of the world, they come from different religious beliefs, they have different perspectives alongside the skills and the expertise needed to be on that board. Just the fact that I'm a woman currently living in the countryside and have worked several years in Africa, and being in core, I'm a finance person, right? But the same finance person being a male living in a big city in Sweden, and that has not had that international experience, but we still have the same skills. But the mindset is completely different. The perspective on life, we have different layers, and we would then complete each other in a really, really good way. And that's what this whole talk about perspectives is all about. But I've also seen some nasty takes on this, and that is what I call alibi recruiting. It's okay. Bear with me. I'm gonna. Okay, so let's say it's a board that is filled to the brim with white Swedish men in their end 50s. They're doing a great job, but all of a sudden they get like pressure from the outside. Where are the women? Where are people of color? Where are the experts on XYZ? What's your take on sustainability and taking responsibility for the world and blah blah blah? And they just feel pressured. They are actually fine with where they are. They have a great board. They're all friends. The level of consensus is really high. And they're like, oh, are we going to now, take in more people? And they are going to push the agenda and fight for their cause. And it just seems like a lot of work. But I mean, guys, come on. You're personally liable. And if you think it's, tiresome and you don't have time for lengthy discussions that would actually make or break the future growth path of the company that you're personally liable for, if you don't have the stamina or the energy to do that, sorry, maybe you should, leave. Because being on a board, it's not like this lifetime achievement award. Being on a board is not something that just kind of ignites and fuels your ego. Dude, you're responsible, you're liable. And sometimes you need to get a little tough love. Sometimes you need to have a bit of an uncomfortable discussion. Maybe taking the few extra minutes to deep dive into the ass and buts and ifs, to be really, really certain that we have enough information to take the decisions that are at hand. And I feel that the minute you actually feel drained and don't, you kind of roll your eyes when someone is speaking, ask yourself the question if you're actually the one who's been, turned into a fat, happy, lazy cat. Because what if you brush them aside? Or what if you don't even invite these people with different perspectives on your board? Maybe you will be out of business in a couple of years' time, and I've also seen the dynamics in some of the boards where there are also a clear social hierarchy, or how I should speak. Um, I can join a board, and then the chairman is like a rock star. I mean, he's a celebrity in the business world, and you sit there and you have so much respect for this person. And he has really nice garden parties in June that you would really like to get invited, because the crown princess and the princes and kings and politics, everyone's going to be there, and your ego feels that you want to be in that circle. So you don't challenge him. I mean, this is human behavior. We all, like I've talked about in previous episodes, we want to belong. We want to be respected, seen, and heard, and all that, but we want to belong to a community. And pride and status. I mean, we all have it, whether we like it or not. It's just about, are you going to feed it, or are you going to recognize it, and then deal with the effects of it? Because I've been on a board raising uncomfortable questions, and I've seen the eyes roll in, and eventually I've been, I left, and I've actually spoken to a few people that has been in the same situation, and one was a woman in the UK, and she said, "Oh, so you were also the uncomfortable woman?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess I was." But if you are in a board and you're constantly not getting along, you're constantly raising issues that are important, but the rest of them, the people on the board, don't really see that. Maybe I suck at getting my point across. If that's the case, then I need to sharpen my communication skills. But if it's the other way around, that I'm not being heard, and these are really, really important issues that I'm raising, maybe I should not be on that board, and this is why the board evaluations are also so important, because I've also been on boards where year after year after year, and you get really cozy and comfortable, and it's like a fun gathering every time. And but then, are you losing that edge? I don't know. But I've also worked a lot with corporate governance over the past like 5 years, right? And a lot of boards, and talked about the value of board evaluation. And there's surprisingly, the large chunk of the boards out there don't evaluate their work. I spoke to chairman, and they was like, "No, I'm on top of things. We're doing a good job, and it's no need." Yeah, or are they scared that they get feedback because they realize maybe they haven't been that attentive? Because looking at some of the biggest companies here in Sweden, it's the same people that sit on all the boards. And on top of that, they are also the CEO of maybe one of the biggest banks in Sweden. And I mean, these are real powerhouse people, but how on earth can you be so into the details in your day job and then on all the other boards you're at? And especially when it's like like the pandemic, or when or right now, I listened to the news this morning that already next week, Donald Trump will put a 20% tariff on imports on cars from Europe. And then you sit there on the board and you're like, yeah, we kind of saw this coming, but now it's definite within a week. And how are you going to manage that? And if you're on three other boards that are also affected, and your day job, running a big financial institution with thousands and thousands of employees, well, just saying. So sometimes when companies come to me and ask, can you recommend someone to sit on our board? People want the celebrities. But I was like, yeah, but ask yourself and ask them, do they really have the time? Because in good days when business are flowing, you could be on 25 boards. But when it's hardship and it affects more industries, holy crap, it's like a full-time job being on two if you're unlucky. And then you're committed to 10, and you're personally liable, and everything is just, crumbling around you. Okay, that was a bit that was a bit dramatic, but yeah, I'm hoping I'll get my point across. And going back to the what I call the alibi recruiting is then, okay, you sit on the board and you realize, oh shit, we need more skill sets. And hey, we need someone who's good at sustainability reporting. Brilliant. But guys, wouldn't it be great if that person was someone who was born and raised outside the European Union? Maybe we want someone from North Africa. Yeah, check. Yeah, because then we have the sustainability expert and we have the non-European person. But wait, what if that person would also be a woman? That would be great. No, you squeeze three minorities in one role. Why? It's like, and I've had so many of these conversations over the years, and it's like, come on. Because what I will talk about in the next video is the important role of the chair on how to actually include and engage all these different skill sets, people, and expertises into the mix, and actually boil it down to a solid strategy and a good structure for decision making, and keeping ahead of competition and knowing exactly what's cooking in your ecosystem. I mean, that's that's something completely different. So yeah, so to sum it up, board composition: think long and hard on what type of skills that you need. And if you're poaching a business celebrity, make sure that they have time. And thirdly, I would say do like board evaluations, to because then every executive can then rate how they perceive the work. And one thing that is really important in the board evaluation is to make sure that there is consensus on the most pressing issues at hand. And you'll be surprised how how that differs among a board, because at the end of the day, we think our view of the world, our view of the company, and if it's in distress, and how you would prioritize actions, it comes so natural to you. So then you ultimately assume that everyone else has the same priority order. They don't. So assume nothing, and that could really be a good tool to do these assessments and to really get the board aligned, because then it can do the best possible work to future proof and secure the business for the long term. Okay, see you soon.